Hello, hello. So anybody who knows me and has been following me for a while know I have a bit of an obsession with our experiences in childhood and how they sculpt us. And whenever I talk about this stuff, it's never about blaming or shaming our parents or caregivers, but it is about acknowledging and understanding that what we experience in childhood influences is so powerful. Anyway, I just want to say a massive thank you to the lovely Catherine Ray, who, after reading this book herself, passed it on to me to read. It's called Childhood Disrupted. I really do need, I can't help it, I really do need to find some books and audio books that are a bit lighter reading. But I just love this stuff. I love anything that's linked to childhood and helping us to understand who we are. And those early days are so fundamental. So this book is by a lady called Donna Jackson Nakazawa. Okay, and I just wanted to come on and I thought I'd just read the first couple of pages of this book because it's so powerful and it really reinforces just how the environment we grow up and things that are said to us can have such a powerful impact over who we become and how we see ourselves and how we see other people in our world. So it does make reference to mental illness. Her mum had bipolar, so for anyone, I just want to sort of give you a bit of a heads up, for anyone who'd prefer not to listen. There's nothing in here that is significant trauma and abuse. In fact, it's like those little subtle ways that things that just happen in our lives that actually have the most significant impact. So often when we think about trauma, we do think about like abuse and neglect, but often it's like it's the more day-to-day stuff that we live in and we think is normal that actually has this massive impact on us. So the first chapter of this book is called Every Adult Was Once a Child. And I just wanted to read a few pages because it really epitomises the work that I do and the power of us understanding that younger part of ourselves and how she lives on in all of us and influences us every single day. So, if you saw Laura walking down the New York City street where she lives today, you'd see a well-dressed 46-year-old woman with auburn hair and green eyes who exudes a sense of I matter here. She looks entirely in charge of her life, as long as you don't see the small ghosts trailing behind her. When Laura was growing up, her mum was bipolar. Laura's mum had her good moments. She helped Laura with school projects, braided her hair, and taught her the name of every bird at the bird feeder. But when Laura's mum suffered from depressive bouts, she'd lock herself in her room for hours. At other times, she was manic and hypercritical, which took its toll on everyone around her. Laura's dad, a vascular surgeon, was kind to Laura, but rarely around. He was, she says, home late, out the door early, and then just plain out the door. Laura recalls a family trip to the Grand Canyon when she was about 10. In a photo taken that day, Laura and her parents sit on a bench, sporting tourist whites. The sky is blue and cloudless, and behind them the dark, ribboned shadows of the canyon stretch deep and wide. It is a perfect summer day. That afternoon, my mum was teaching me to identify the Ponderosa pines. Laura recalls, anyone looking at us would have assumed we were a normal, loving family. Then something seemed to shift, as it sometimes would. Laura's parents began arguing about where to set up the tripod for the family photo. By the time the three of them sat down, her parents weren't speaking. As they put on fake smiles for the camera, Laura's mum suddenly pinched her daughter's midriff around the back rim of her shorts and told her to stop staring off into space. Then a second pinch. No wonder you're turning into a butterball. You ate so much cheesecake last night, you're hanging over your shorts. If you look hard at Laura's face in the photograph, you can see that she's not squinting at the Arizona sun. She's holding back the tears. When Laura was 15, her dad moved 3 states away with a new wife-to-be. He sent cards and money, but called less and less often. Her mother's untreated bipolar disorder worsened. Laura's days were punctuated with put-downs that caught her off guard as she walked across the living room. My mum would spit out something like, "You look like a sidewide from behind." If you're ever wondering why no boy asked you out, that's why. One of Laura's mother's recurring lines was, "You were such a pretty baby. I don't know what happened." Sometimes, Laura recalls, my mum would go on a vitriolic diatribe about my dad until spittle formed on her chin. I'd stand there, trying not to hear her as she went on and on, my whole body shaking inside. Laura never invited friends over, for fear they'd find out her secret. Her mum wasn't like other mums. Some 30 years later, Laura says, "In many ways, no matter where I go or what I do, I'm still in my mother's house." Today, if a car swerves into my lane, a grocery store clerk is rude, my husband and I argue, or my boss calls me in to talk over a problem, I feel something flip over inside. It's like there's a match standing inside near to a flame, and with the smallest of breezes it ignites. Something, she says, just doesn't feel right. They feel bigger than they should be. Some days I feel as if I'm living my life in an emotional boombox where the volume is turned up too high. To see Laura, you would never know that she is always shaking a little, only invisibly, deep down in her cells. Laura's sense that something is wrong inside is mirrored by her physical self. In her mid-30s, she began suffering from migraines that landed her in bed for days at a time. At 40, Laura developed an autoimmune thyroid disease. At 44, during a routine exam, Laura's doctor didn't like the sound of her heart. An ECG revealed an arrhythmia. An echocardiogram showed that Laura had a condition known as dilated cardiomyopathy. The left ventricle of her heart was weak. The muscle had trouble pumping blood into her heart. Next thing Laura knew, she was a heart disease patient, undergoing surgery. Today, Laura has a cardioverter fibrillator implanted in her left side of her chest to prevent heart failure. The 2-inch scar from the implant is deceivingly small. Such a powerful, powerful start to that book. And it totally reinforces, the experience and environment that we grow up in as children and the emotional impact that has on us into adulthood, and how that emotional impact then leads into different physical conditions. When I look at why I have an autoimmune condition, when I look at the ways in which I've abused my body and allowed other people to abuse my body, it's no wonder that emotion has to present out in some kind of physical when the body says no, right? So if that resonates with you, reach out. It's such a powerful, powerful paragraph that really does underpin why our childhood and the experiences we have in childhood are so important, and we need to stop discounting them. Thanks for listening.